So I think it's 5 past, and let's start the class proper. Welcome again to everybody. Might be your first time, might not be. So just a little sort of recap, which if you are here for the first time, possibly doesn't entirely make sense when I say a recap. So perhaps I should say a little summary. So we're doing 5 Thursday evenings, which sort of connect to a theme that we're also doing in a course on Saturday mornings. The course is called Who Hates the Metabolism? You don't have to hate it to be able to come. It's a sort of exploring how to perhaps do it in a slightly different way. And these Thursdays connect, but they do stand alone as well. So some of the people tonight in our meditative online community might be going to that course, or they might just be coming here because they like coming on Thursdays, and they might never have been here at all. But we are going to be doing the Metabolism and loving kindness meditation. I'll lead that through. So this session is called Giving is Love. And what we're going to be doing is highlighting giving, generosity and abundance, both in the Metabolism, loving kindness meditation, and in our daily lives. So for those people who know the Metabolism, or for those tonight who are going to try out this development of loving kindness, just to say that we're sort of doing these sessions because it seems that perhaps many of us have a bit of a habit of trying to force loving kindness, and rather than it sort of unfolding naturally from our hearts, perhaps with a bit of direction through the structure of the practice, we tend to sort of force it out. And actually that doesn't work, but also it can be very, very sort of painful when we do that, really sort of blocking feelings. And also it can really put us off doing this lovely meditation, which is such a shame. If there is anybody here who hasn't done this loving kindness meditation, I said I'll lead you through, but there are 5 stages. We start with ourselves, and we sort of work through a friend, a neutral person, a difficult person, and then sort of try to extend out to more living beings, maybe ultimately all living beings. But we're always sort of staying in touch with our hearts and our bodies, and how we're sort of really feeling in ourselves, to make sure we don't get too far ahead of ourselves at any time in the meditation. So we have tuned in these sessions to some dimensions of metta, dimensions of loving kindness. For instance, we've looked at appreciation, gratitude and thankfulness. And we've also looked at the way that metta is an intention to benefit others, to promote their welfare. And in one of the sessions, we were experimenting with experiencing ourselves in the meditation, could be sort of as a sense of it, or maybe even as an image, giving a lovely present of well-being to to ourselves and to the other people we brought to mind in the meditation. And for me, I saw myself giving large gold and white boxes of well-being to other people, which were sort of tied up with a gold ribbon. And when the people opened the box, the well-being sort of poured out, and the recipients were sort of feeling very glad and happy. So because we were sort of doing it in that kind of way, we were tuning in already to that dimension of loving kindness, which is about giving and generosity. Let's think first of all about the ways we can be generous in everyday life. But maybe even before that, we need to answer a question to some extent at least. Well, why give? Why be generous? Now, there are so many ways we could answer this, and perhaps each of us has our own personal reasons. And of course, these could change over time. One simple answer could be that being kind, being generous, is ethical action. It's a good thing in itself. We do it, or we want to do it, because it's inherently valuable, inherently truthful, inherently beautiful even. From a Buddhist point of view, giving to ourselves and others expresses the viewpoint that really we are not the center of the universe, as we can tend to think when we're being egoistic, self centered, narrow, and tight. Really, the universe consists of many beings, all of which are important. And when we're tuning in to how the universe actually is, an attitude of sharing and connection and giving is a very natural attitude. That could be that that rings a bell with you, or maybe you've got other ideas about why it might be good to give. So we're just going to muse for a moment on our own individual thoughts about this area. So turning now to the area of what we can give and what we can share. Well, you could say pretty much anything. We can share resources, which doesn't just mean money and belongings. We can also give time, for instance, to a friend who wants some quality time, perhaps on Zoom or in a socially distanced walk to talk something through. We can also share qualities. For instance, traditionally, one of the loveliest things that you can give is confidence and fearlessness. In situations when people are anxious, frightened, and perhaps behaving in ways that aren't very helpful for them, having someone remain calm can really make a difference. We can also give culture and education, meaning we can be a source of learning for each other in so many ways. So let's just stop here for a moment and muse about the week. What have we given in these areas mentioned, and what have we received? Just for myself, just the last few days, I received some appreciation at work from two colleagues about how I was working, as it were, particular things I'd done well. And I had an email from a friend who I hadn't been in contact with for a while, um, saying she'd like to catch up and asking me how I was. In terms of giving, actually today, I had a new patient. Well, he'd come yesterday, a social worker in a hospital, and he was very, very anxious about some lost belongings as well as other things. And I spent quite a bit of time reassuring him that I'd be able to look into that and help sort it out. And also, I put aside, well, I confess what I actually did was because I'm moving house, I got a mug. It's not a very nice mug. I think somebody might have given it to me as a present, but I haven't liked it and I've never used it. And I started to sort of think, oh, I'll just put it in a bin. And then I thought, no, 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 hang on. I can send this to a charity shop because somebody else might really like the mug. So let's just bring to mind, you know, anything we've given or received in the areas I've mentioned just in the last week. And also when we're doing that, see if we can sort of get a sense of our hearts. You know, when we dwell on this, you know, what does it feel like in our heart when we bring to mind our own generosity and also the generosity that others have shown towards us? Just a moment doing that. Well, I hope you felt maybe a sort of opening or relaxing or warming or something in the heart area when you were dwelling on these areas. And one of the best things that we can give is empathy, understanding, a non-judgmental heart, deep listening. These are especially important when someone is suffering, someone is in pain. And our loving kindness has well, if we have a response of loving kindness, it has the flavour of compassion. Now, this connects with why, as well as phrases that we may drop into the meditation of may I be well, may I be happy, or may they be well, maybe they be happy. And where we were doing it before, where we might have a sort of sense of giving ourselves or others a present of well-being. We also have a third phrase, which we may want to use in the Metabolism, which is, may I be free from suffering. May they be free from suffering. So again, let's just take a moment to reflect on this area and contact our hearts. Can we remember a time? It could be recently, might not be though. Sometimes these moments are a bit rare, where we really felt someone took us in very deeply, really listened, really empathized with us. Very possibly we were suffering in some way. And what was that like? What was it that we were sort of in receipt of, if you see what I mean? So let's just have a moment to dwell on that. It was an instance for me fairly recently. I'd been troubled about a relationship and I talked it over with someone. And the sort of feeling of that was really being listened to and taken in. It was funny, when I was just doing that now, I hadn't noticed this before, I felt I was related to both in a sort of very individual way, but also there was something about the way that that person was responding to me that felt quite sort of universal in a certain sort of way. Anyway, just telling you what my experience was. Um, we can use those sort of experiences as well. Because time's going on, I was going to say let's reflect a bit about when we were like this for someone else. I'm not sure that we've got time. That's something you could do in the coming week if you want to. And if we like images, maybe we can be giving a jar of wonderful healing liquid or something like that if we want. Now, from a Buddhist perspective, one of the most helpful things we can give is the Dharma. Well, what does this mean? And that's a word that kind of means something in Buddhism. And of course, lots of us here are not necessarily practicing as Buddhists. So when we talk about giving the Dharma in a Buddhist context, it means that we're sort of literally talking about the Buddha's teachings. But what the sort of heart of it is that we're acting or thinking or feeling in ways that are helping ourselves and others to grow, to flourish, to thrive as essentially developing living beings. So it's in our nature, it's the nature of our living beingness, our awareness, to grow and develop, to move forward, to deepen and broaden. And it's a great gift to foster this growth in ourselves and others. So this all connects with why, when we're sort of staying receptively in touch with ourselves in the Metabolism, loving kindness meditation, we also may delicately sort of drop in the fourth phrase, may I grow and develop, or may they grow and develop. So we'll just do a short reflection. Again, I was going to do one about when someone related to us in this way. Let's do one where we imagine, or not imagine, we connect maybe with a situation where we've been the person who's been able to relate to somebody else in a way that wasn't just sort of empathetic or kind of was connecting in a heartfelt way, as it were, but was actually able to communicate or help that promoted growth. Let's see if we can imagine doing that. Not imagine doing that, bring to mind a situation where we were doing that. Sorry, I'm not being very clear because I'm sort of cutting down a bit on these reflections. Let's just have a moment where we maybe really promoted somebody's growth in some sort of way. And if we can, also, what did that feel like in our hearts? Well, for me, there was something that was just a little bit more about sort of intentionality or sort of direction of energy. Perhaps that's all I can say. Don't know how it was for you. These are all sort of nuances of loving kindness, really. Okay, well, we need to now progress to the meditation. So make yourself comfortable and get into meditation posture. So have a couple of minutes of really um, enhancing our present awareness here and now in the body, in our being, in our hearts. And we can do that by becoming aware of the top of our head, letting our awareness flow like sort of beautiful water over the back of our head and our faces, the back of our neck, the front of the neck. This sort of flowing awareness is over our shoulders. You probably just can't help relaxing as the awareness flows over and down the arms and the hands. Our awareness flows down the back, the front of the body, the chest, and the heart area, and the belly, and our seat area, sense of contact with our chair or cushion. And then our awareness is just sort of flowing over our legs, upper legs, lower legs, and then resting for a moment on our feet or in our feet. If we want to, we can just do that again ourselves. Start at the top, rest your awareness for a moment at the top of the head. Let your awareness flow in a sort of beautiful, watery, even purifying way all over the body, front and the back. and the sides. And when you get to the feet, just rest there with the feet for a moment. It sort of helps ground ourselves. So making any subtle adjustments now to our posture if you want to. It's grounding, relaxing sort of sense of energy, but also a little bit of uplift. So the energy is also sort of moving upwards and broadening over the chest, body, very poised, very still. We're getting ready now for the first stage of the Metabhavna. Within this sense of our bodies and being overall, we tune into our heart areas, or our heart area in sort of the chest area, both on outside and sort not outside, on the top and within our bodies, our being. Within our hearts, there might be a variety of experiences. We can acknowledge those. And it might be that from what we were looking at today, in another session today, a sort of sense of giving and generosity, the sharing that goes on from us to other living beings and receiving, might be that that's sort of there in the heart in some way. And becoming aware of it enhances that a little. If we want to try dropping in a phrase or two, we can do within this sort of context of giving to ourselves, giving well-being. May I be well and happy. That's with the present well-being. So that may I be free from suffering. Kind of a slightly different nuance. May I grow and develop. Again, a slightly different sort of nuance. It can be just dropped into the heart very delicately, maybe once or twice. If you don't want to use the phrases, that's fine as well. Just allow our hearts to unfold naturally and easily in this area of giving loving kindness to ourselves. So we're being with what's there, but there's also a slight sort of sense of tension in the energy. Very slight sort of dynamic quality. Now we're going to move to the second stage. Stay in touch with ourselves, and we also now include a good friend. Bringing them to mind, whatever that means, could mean sort of that we feel their presence here and now. Could mean that we remember being with them, that we just, or that we sort of see them in some sort of way with our hearts, or in our hearts even. Doesn't matter. Just bring them to mind. We like and care about this person anyway. What we're doing is sort of being with that, but seeing if that can unfold a little bit more. Maybe using the phrases, just dropping them delicately into our heart. May he or she be well and happy, free from suffering. May they grow and develop. Just once or twice in this section. Maybe using images of what you can give, as we've mentioned, in a sort of general way, giving well-being, giving sort of empathy and compassion in the form of some sort of healing liquid, especially if this person is suffering a lot, and so on. keeping that thread of connection with our own hearts, our own bodies, our energies. And seeing what's there as a response to the good friend. Getting ready now to move to the third stage. In the third stage, we bring a neutral person to mind, somebody we don't really know very well. We do know them though, acquaintance, somebody who serves us coffee in the coffee shop, somebody we sort of just say hello to at work. We don't really like them or dislike them. The cardboard cutout people. We sort of let them into our hearts in some way. Maybe they're here with us. We see them in some situation with us or with family or work or something. We just bring them to mind in our awareness, however that works for us. And then we see if our hearts have a response. A variety of responses, including not really hardly any response. It's okay. Nevertheless, we might be able to sort of tune in a bit in this spirit of generosity. Maybe there's a way in which we can imaginatively wish them well-being, freedom from suffering, thriving, abundance in their lives. We're staying in contact with ourselves. We sort of don't want to turn this too much in these later stages into being about us, as it were, because it's about us and the other person. We might want to just notice. Sometimes it's easy to see in this phase where we perhaps don't feel a great deal of metta towards them. These different, slightly different nuances, perhaps, if we are dropping in these different phrases, of how that metta feels for us, flowing out in some way to the other person. So now we're going to move on to the fourth stage, but before we do, just take a moment to really tune into our bodies. There might be some very subtle adjustments we need to make. Our physical bodies are the sort of housing of our energies, which then are supporting the awareness in the meditation. If we got a bit tight, just need to relax. Are we a bit drowsy? We might need to sort of lift ourselves up a little. Now the fourth stage. So we're bringing to mind now a difficult person, well, a person we find difficult. Ultimately, they're not necessarily difficult to all other living beings. And not someone we really hate, because we'll just spend all the time hating them. Someone we are a bit annoyed with, for whatever reason. And we bring them to mind. We just have to be a bit careful. Sometimes if we really bring them into our presence, it's too much and we just feel very irritated. Like we have to see them in some setting, but they are there in our awareness. We let them in. That in itself is a gift. It's when we dislike someone, we just want them out of our awareness. We sort of sense how we are in our hearts. There's the dislike, annoyance. Maybe there's some other feelings and experiences as well. It would be possible to sort of flow around that rather sort of rock of dislike. You sense that person in another way. Maybe the phrases and the images come in. Wishing that person to be growing and thriving. Maybe imaginatively give them a plant, flower, something that's growing. Sometimes in this stage of the difficult person, we can connect quite a lot with the giving and the sharing of empathy and compassion and understanding. It's possibly this person's way of behaving and their patterns are harming themselves in some way, leading to suffering. May they not suffer. Now we're going to move into the last stage. First of all, we bring all four people together imaginatively. Maybe we are all together here, sitting together. All together in some lovely scene. We're just taking in all four people, ourselves, the difficult person, the friend, and the neutral person. And noticing if we do the sort of nuances and differences in our responses. Perhaps hopefully by now some kindly, generous responses. And it might not be equal to all those people. Just sort of allow our hearts to open a bit more to include more people here tonight. So our hearts now would like to give them a present of well-being, or some healing liquid if they're suffering. Plant to wish them growth. And extending out a bit more, if possible. That's people in your area, your local area. Further afield. We can extend out as much as we like, maybe even with groups of people, old people, young people, rich people, poor people, or just extending a bit in the directions of to the front and the back and the side and so on. Doing that in a way that is sensitive to no pushing in any way from the heart area. May all beings be well and happy. May all be free from suffering. And may all beings grow and develop. So now we've got, say, 5 minutes for any questions or comments, and then we've got some announcements just at the end of the class about some lovely, exciting things that you're very welcome to come to.
Thank you, Padmajata, for that. It was very interesting to notice how, well, I was thinking kindness, or it's a bit like a sort of a muscle, isn't it? Doing these exercises of thinking about when you've been generous, or when people have been generous, or when people have been generous to me, it sort of opens my heart and stimulates, you know, ideas of more kindness. It's kind of like it's a muscle or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good analogy. Yeah, a gentle muscle, though, isn't it? Well, it could be a very potent muscle. But as you say, these little reflections, I find that myself. It's sort of, you sort of tune in, isn't it? And it kind of leads you in, rather than sort of think, oh gosh, I've got to be developing meta, you know, for the next 20 minutes or something, which can be so off-putting for us a bit. Sort of leads you in. So yeah. Anybody has got any comments or questions? Oh well, Vidyasaki, that was Vidyasaki, by the way, people. Is looking at the chat, I think. I mean, don't worry, nobody might have any comments or questions. That's absolutely fine as well. We all get a bit quieter, don't we? Well, I certainly find that. It's very interesting for me. I just have to say this. For a while, I don't always sense it. I certainly did this time. For a while when I'm meditating, I know everybody's there, but I haven't necessarily got a sense of the sort of meditative energy between us. But in the last couple of stages, I felt this sort of, yeah, I can only call it meditative energy that's created with us collectively. I don't know if how you were all getting on. I hope you were getting on all right, certainly. It's funny and it's quite sort of potent. How does it travel across the airways and the screens? Well, it doesn't really, because it's sort of mind energy, awareness energy, created somehow by us tuning into each other and to other beings. Yeah. I suppose that I was talking in a study group that I do this week. Is that in itself something that's really good for the world? I personally believe it is. Yeah, in itself, that we've given something to the world tonight by doing this. Mm. Any other thought? Any other points, Vidyasaki?
No, nothing's come up in chat.
No. Well, not to worry. Maybe let's go to the announcement, shall we? Because actually, we've only got a couple of minutes. So, over to Vidyasaki, who's going to tell us about some things going on at Cambridge Buddhist Centre.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks again, Padmajata, for a really nourishing evening of practice. And I wanted to mention a couple of things that you might be interested in. One is that we run a morning meditation on Monday mornings between 8 and 9. You can come and meditate with us on Zoom. So it's a little bit more connecting, if you like, than YouTube. You can you can come in on the Zoom link and we meditate together. We alternate the two different practices. And I think that Padmajata is right. I think that when we meditate together, we're more than the sum of our parts. And we are kind of emanating good things to the world. And with that in mind, we're also running a retreat over the Easter weekend. it's called the Spring Rainy Season Retreat, and you are extremely welcome to come along. We'll kind of create a big meditating, reflecting community over the Easter weekend. So that starts on the Thursday night, the 1st of April, and it will go all the way through to Monday morning. And there'll be early morning meditation. There'll be talks mid-morning with Jnana Varcha, who's a really great teacher. And then in the afternoon, there'll be off-screen activities, family-friendly things, creative things. And then there'll be puja in the evening. And the idea is that we just create a loose, ethical, meditating, sensitive community, all kind of working together for the benefit of all beings. So what better thing to do with your Easter weekend? I think Samudra Ghosh has put the link up in the chat box, so go and have a look on the website and book on if you can. Do feel free to make a donation for this evening's class. We offer it for free in a spirit of generosity, in the spirit of spreading the Dharma. And if you're moved to support us, then do follow the link to the donations page and help us keep it all rolling. Anything else? Oh yeah, and please do subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. That also is very helpful for us. So really lovely to have you with us this evening. Thanks again to Padmajata. I think Samudra Ghosh will be doing the talk next week, and I'll be here and look forward to seeing you then. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Lovely to be with you. Have a lovely week.